I'm Beth Guckenberger, and this is the Reckless Faith Podcast. Welcome back. I'm here with Rob Hall, my longtime friend and colleague at Back to Back Ministries. Rob, thanks for being with us.
Absolutely. Day after day. This is awesome.
I do like this day.
Yes, I love this bonus material. People working through the devotional. You know, we're into day 18 now.
Yeah.
Right? So day after day. And I just love the conversations that have got to be happening with people as they're doing it. And I love this bonus conversation.
I do too.
It's pretty fun. I enjoyed today this idea that there's more than one mission going on at a time. That who knew God could do more than one thing at a time.
Oh, I just need to confess that I think the idea came to me initially when we have donors for the ministry, and those donors give hard-earned dollars to benefit the work that we do with orphans and vulnerable children. And there was a season in my life when I thought of those donors as B players and the kids in the orphanages as A players. And we were going to use the B people's money in order to meet the needs of these kids who were in the center of God's heart and bullseye. And there was a deep conviction that happened in my heart a number of years ago where I realized, actually, he likes the donor as much as he likes the kid.
Yes.
He has a heart and a plan and died on the cross for them just in all the same ways he did for the kids that we served. And maybe when he prompts an action, he can have more than one mission going on at a time. He has something going on for the goer and the giver as much as he has for those that are the receivers.
Yeah. Yeah. And if we think about our lives, right, we can think about multiple storylines happening at any time.
Yes. Yeah, I had this moment. I had this dream. If you've ever seen me speak on a stage, I have a little pink Bible I always use. And I had this dream, and in this dream, somebody came out on a stage at a church and said, and I was sitting in the audience, said the pastor's not there, and there wasn't going to be able to be a sermon, and was anybody ready to share something? And in my dream, I waved my pink Bible in the air, and I'm like, me, I got something I want to share. And I woke up and I told Todd, I think that the Lord is warning me that I need to be ready in a moment's notice, that he's got something for me. I just need it. So he was like, okay, that's great. So it was just a few weeks later, and I was at a conference where I serve on the board of directors at the Christian Leadership Alliance, and it was the opening night of the conference. And I had heard that the main stage speaker, which I was not, I was just a conference attender at that point, that he had some flight issues. And so the president of that organization came to me and said, I don't even know if you could do this, but if he doesn't get here on time, would you be willing to share tonight? And I was like, yes, the Lord gave me a dream. And I told him my dream. I was all excited. I went backstage, prepared a message. I was so excited. I felt like the Lord had given it to me. And then all of a sudden he shows up.
Oh, the guy came.
And I had to take off my headset, and I was like so crushed, like, Lord, what are you talking about? Like, this is what we were going to do. And I forced myself to sit out and listen to him because I'm like, you brought him here under miraculous circumstances because he has something we're all supposed to hear. And I could pout or I could receive what you have. So I received what he had that night. It was lovely. The next day, the Lord and I had a conversation about how sometimes he has an audience of one. And that whole thing could have been so that I could have been ready and prepared to share what God had, even if he wasn't going to call on me to do it. And so that whole next day, Jesus and I continued to wrestle with it all. Finally got a peace about it. I'm sitting in the night two's main stage session, and the worship is going on. And the president of the organization came and found me, and she said, hey, there's a storm going on in Atlanta, and our speaker never made it out, and we don't have a speaker. Could you go on in about 15 minutes? And I said, yes, I prepared something last night. I'd be happy to. And when I got on that stage that night, it literally felt anointed. Not because of what I had put together or the order I'd put it together or even in the way that I delivered it. It felt like the Spirit was so thick that night. And afterwards, there was a sound team that had been hired to run the conference. They didn't share our faith. They were just excellent at their jobs of audiovisual. And one of the sound guys came over to me and he was crying. And he said, I usually do this for athletic events. I don't usually come to conferences. I've never felt something like I felt tonight. Could you help me understand what it is?
Wow.
And I realized, like, oh my gosh, Jesus, this whole thing could have been for the sound guy. And it could also have been for me and my understanding of your will for my life. And it could have been for everything that we heard the night before for that guy. And it could be for people who heard about my dream. And it could be like, you have more than one mission going on at a time, and we can trust you for it.
Okay, so many directions I could go right now, and this is supposed to be kind of a bonus material, shortish
Yes.
podcast, and we're already 5 minutes in. I'm like, holy cow. The one that pops out to me as I listen to your story is kind of the timing of when God is going to bring fruition to something that you sense he's promised to you, or something that you know he's promised, whether it's peace or patience or goodness, kindness, any of those things. They could be kind of those kind of things, or perhaps it's very specific, like I had a dream and I was supposed to go on stage and it didn't happen when I thought it should. That just pops into my mind. So tell me something about maybe the night before. Tell me some more about that. Like, what was it like to think that this was going to be the dream and then it wasn't?
I think it's a really important part of maturation to know how to deal with disappointment. And I had to name it at first, that I was disappointed. Disappointed I wasn't going to get to do what I wanted to do. Disappointed that I thought God had promised me and that it felt like he reneged. Disappointed that this guy had shown up when I should have been so delightful.
Darn it.
I should have been so like grateful as a board member that everything had worked out and he could be here as we had planned. Like I had to actually name that it was disappointment. And then I had to take that disappointment to the cross, like to the throne room of Jesus, and allow him to exchange that disappointment for what became patience and endurance and perseverance and some of the other muscles I needed more exercise in. So by the time he decided, now is my time, because I want this guy to hear it, or I want you to speak with this kind of power that we're going to have to get, because we're going to have to walk through this thing the night before, like whatever it was, whyever it was to be the following night. I think part of the key to that anointing was the time I spent with Jesus, not in pouting, but in growth.
And in this story, the mercy and the grace of Jesus, you saw that in a 24-hour span, right? That is not necessarily always the case. Sometimes, and for people listening, they might not have seen that fruition yet, or it might have been years in between those promises coming true.
Yes. Yeah, I just met, I didn't just meet. I have this friend who told me she has two children who are like 17 and 19, and she felt like the Lord had promised her a third son. And for many, many years, she lived without that coming true. And she just gave birth to a brand new baby boy. Like 16, 17 years after her last one. And that was a long time for her to watch God's promises come to fruition. And his timing isn't ours.
Yeah. Today's action: write the list of promises God gives to orphans and imagine God saying them directly to you. Which one jumps out at you? What promise do you need to cling to and stand on today? We're already 8 minutes in, and this is a kind of bonus material. So I don't know that we'll talk about your experience in that action, but I can imagine the kind of intimate conversation that could happen between people who are doing this 40-day journey and God as a result of this.
Yes. He's going to come to them. He's going to hear them. He's going to lift them up. He's going to be their father. I encourage them to try it.
Really, really great stuff. Hey, if you have Reckless Faith, a 40-day journey to saying yes, we hope that this podcast keeps you focused on having meaningful conversations today, certainly with God, and then perhaps with other people as you talk out loud with other people about what you're experiencing. If you're here and haven't yet gotten a copy, you can find it on Amazon. Or for the book and other resources, you can visit backtoback.org/40 days. That's BACK, the number 2, BACK.org/40 days.
I just want to thank you for being on this journey towards a more reckless faith. And until next time.